Hey everybody, West Seattle here. Today we are building the Estes Mosquito, a tiny little rocket. The picture there is probably life-size, actually, scale 1 to 1. Estes Mosquito was my very first rocket when I was about 10 years old, and it came as a kit with the Javelin, which is, they still make a Javelin, but it's different. In any case, this is a tiny, tiny rocket, and just got the hankering to build a few minis recently. So a little bit of history, just for me, going back to the Mosquito. This is the first kit I've built in years, decades, and my fingers are a different size. So I actually did find some challenges with this small model. In any event, it was a ton of fun. And I'm going to build it for you now, and as if you're a beginner, so I'll sort of explain everything I'm doing, and hopefully you enjoy it. And you can leave feedback in the comments, and let's get going. So I've taken the parts out of the bag so far. It came in a different bag. I was too anxious and ripped it open, and so then I didn't have the bag for the video. You didn't need to know that. It's all right, though. The fins came as one little sheet, although in shipping it, they had come out. They're laser cut balsa, and they had come out. All but one had popped out in shipping. They were not broken or damaged in any way, though, which is nice. That was the launch lug. We'll show that in a little bit. I believe the first thing to do is to show you the upside down glue. That's what I use because I saw everybody else building rockets using Type Bond 2. Not a product endorsement. I don't get paid. That's just what I bought. Also showed some sandpaper and a sanding block. That's 220 grit, so very fine, or fairly fine. And the finish was something I was never concerned with as a kid. I loved building them, and then I loved launching them. But I'm more concerned. I want to try and make nice finishes this time, so I'm taking a little bit of extra time. The little pad there is just some shelf liner, drawer liner stuff you can get at any hardware store. Those are the 3 fins. You can line them up like this. That's what most people seem to do. It's what I always did as a kid. It's what I'm still doing. So forgive the focus. By the way, feel free to leave comments on the video too, although I watch a bunch of different people building stuff, as you can see, because I'm mimicking it with the cutting mat and all that. But I would love feedback on the video as well. I am looking to change things up, and so yeah, feel free. All I did there was to sand off some of the little connectors, the little nibs that hold the fins into the scrap material, into the sheet where they've been laser cut. So now I'm sanding to round over the leading edge. Held it up to the rocket to make sure I'm orienting it correctly, because you'd be surprised. You can get confused. Well, I can get confused. So a little close-up of the round over, and it's just to make it a little bit more aerodynamically nice, good, happy stuff, peaceful, flying. I've heard if you're taking pictures of models, leave the edges of the fins unsanded, and they look better in photographs. I think it was on Apogee Components website. But for flight, you always want to round over at least the leading edge. I've rounded over the entire fin. My thought is just the air will go over the entire fin more smoothly if it's rounded a little bit at the back. Who knows? No, lots of people know. Stop. Don't comment on that. That's just what I do in any event. So do that to all 3 fins. And now what I'm doing is applying an initial coat of wood glue, and just a tiny thin coat to the root of the fin, all 3 fins, of course, and that coat dries in just a few minutes because it's so thin. What that does is seals the root of the fin so that when you apply glue now, it sticks better to the fin and the tube. I used my pencil and my fingers as a guide. This is such a short body tube, just to mark the 3 spots for the fins. The instructions which we'll see in a moment. There is a scale diagram, one-to-one scale diagram of the layout of the fins 120 degrees apart. So, I don't have a protractor. I'm using that diagram. And at some point I'll get a fin alignment guide because I do want to start, like I said, paying more attention to the details. So this is the first fin being glued on, and that's really all there is to it. You put on some glue, you wipe off quite a bit of it, leave just enough to completely fill the space between the fin and the body tube when you press it in there, and then just press and hold for a few seconds. It sets up in about an hour, but full strength in 24 hours. I generally would do one fin at a time, but I have rushed it a little bit to try and get the video done in one sitting, just not that you need to know that. So you have to line the fin up. I'm looking at it, I'm orienting it in all different directions, holding it up so that the camera can see it a little bit. And, I fiddled with the first fin, for quite a long time, so I didn't need to subject you to all that. The second fin, same deal. You just, add more glue than you did for the initial coat, because again, you want to fill all the gaps between, but then you just hold it on there for a few seconds. So yeah, that's the third fin going on. You can see how poorly aligned it is, but I do fix that. Not that time, but again, I fiddled with it for some time to just get it correctly positioned. It has to be 90 degrees to the body tube, and it has to not be yawed off in one direction or another, like twisted. So they've set up now the fins, and here's the little diagram I was referring to before. It's pretty close to directly under the camera, so it's pretty close to showing that they are actually, all three are fairly well aligned. And now that it's set up, what I can do is install the nose cone. I'm using CA for this. It's super glue, crazy glue. It's cyanoacrylate. This is medium, which is a slightly longer drying time, so it allows me to put a small bead of it on, then join the parts together, and it then sets up in a few seconds after that. So 3 to 5 is what they say, 3 to 5 seconds. Now, there's controversy within my own mind about whether to use CA. I never used CA as a kid, but we had balsa nose cones. So this is new to me. I don't want to mix up epoxy just for a tiny bit of nose cone, but if that's what I have to do, if the CA doesn't work, then clearly I'll do that. Also, don't recommend wiping the CA off with your finger. I knew that, but I was like, oh dear, it's going to set up. I didn't say oh dear. So wipe off the excess. I will do that differently next time. I will put the small bead of CA inside the body tube. That is the way I should have done it in the first place, and then install the nose cone so it doesn't squeeze out. If there's any excess, you're pushing it further into the body tube if you do it that way. Now what I'm going to do is put fillets on the fins. They add strength and, in my own mind at least, a little bit of aerodynamic smoothness, if that's a word for aerodynamic. No, please don't comment. So to do fillets, what you're doing is you're kind of putting an almost 45 degree corner joint. You're reinforcing that. So you put on some wood glue, and then you wipe off most of the excess, leaving the corner filled, essentially. Do be sure to touch up the front edge of the fin at the root where it joins the body tube, as well as the rear edge of the fin at the root where it joins the body tube. If you would like to, you can seal the edges of the fins with one type of glue or another. I'm not going to do that on this small model. I am going to use sandable primer. Most primers, well, just be sure you get a sandable primer. So this is the launch lug, what goes down on the launch rod when you're ready to fire this into the sky. It's a small bit of paper tube. The small models have 1/8 inch require a 1/8 inch launch rod, and that's what comes with the standard launching kit from Estes. Of course, you can use anything you'd like to. Just get into it and have fun with it. So the launch lug is installed in the corner between the body tube and one of the fins, as it shows in the diagram. I just put a little bit of glue on the launch lug and put it in its place. And see, it's almost like I don't know how to use my fingers because the rocket is so tiny. I feel silly. Anyway, make sure the launch lug is straight as well. In this case, with this launch lug being about twice as long as the fin, it can get a little bit skewed pretty easily over the length of it because it's not next to the fin for its entire length. Anyway, just make sure it's straight. Use your eye. Draw a line on there. I could have done that before. Make sure that it's a straight line and glue your launch lug. And that is really all there is to the Estes Mosquito. Yeah, I said this came as part of a kit. My older brother, got the Javelin. That was the first one. And I got the Mosquito. And man, they were just fun to build and fun to launch. When we would launch rockets, it was we were definitely young enough so that we needed Dad to be there. We needed Dad to drive there in any event. But the launch controller needed to be hooked up to a car battery at that time. Now it's 4 AA batteries. And it's just interesting to see how the hobby has progressed. So, yeah, like I said, guys, I'm West Seattle. I hope you enjoy this video. Please feel free to leave any feedback down at the bottom of the page. I appreciate you watching. Couple final looks at the Mosquito before it goes to paint, which hopefully I'll do in a separate video so I can share that with all of you. One of me who's watching this. And yeah, hope you enjoyed it. See you next time, guys.